Without further ado, we will hand over to our main presenter for today and say good afternoon to IRFU Women's Development Manager, Amanda Greensmith.
Thanks, Ross. Hi, everyone. Can I just double check this to get started? Can everybody see the screen there with the T.E.E sessions up on it?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, so I'm your guest to talk about our Give It a Try programme. And some of you are probably already aware of the programme. Some of your clubs may have run it in previous seasons. I suppose this year, with everything that's gone on, we've had to, adjust the programme. And today, just wanted to give you an outline of how Give It a Try is going to look as we return to rugby in the next couple of weeks and months. So I'll just give a general overview of the programme. So we're looking to run the programme over 4 weeks. And this year we've expanded the programme to include girls from the age of 8 up to 14. The concept is to try and support clubs where numbers might be stretched at some of those age levels, where there's a partial structure. So perhaps a club has under 16s and under 18s, but doesn't have anything coming beneath that, or perhaps there's no girls structure in the club at all. And it's something that the club has thought about and is interested in getting up and running. We're hoping to provide an environment, a fun and safe environment for the girls, and an environment in which they can develop their athletic and social skills. As part of the programme, we'll provide appropriate session plans for the 4 weeks. We'll be taking into account, obviously, all the guidelines around COVID-19 and what they will look like as we return to rugby. And it'll all be done in a non-contact element. Tag and touch will be part of the programmes, as we're allowed to roll those out, but in terms of the actual full-on physical contact, that won't be part of the 4-week programme. From our side as well, we'll be providing a resources handbook to the group, which will include registration forms, attendance sheets, and tips on recruitment and how to set up. And as I've already mentioned, all the current COVID guidelines which are available on the IRFU website must be adhered to. So things like appointing a compliance officer and engaging with your club COVID officer would be key in helping to run the programme for this coming year. From, I suppose, our side of things, we found Give It a Try very successful over the last number of years since it was rolled out in 2017 as a pilot programme and as part of the legacy from the Women's Rugby World Cup that was hosted here in Ireland. And we just look for a little bit of feedback from those that participate in the programme. And I suppose we look for that for a number of reasons. I suppose we survey it to make sure that the programme content is appropriate and that the club coaches are finding it useful. It's good to get feedback around the promotion, what initiatives clubs felt worked or didn't work, or where they had areas that they went into that provided, a large influx into their clubs. And of course, we're always looking for any further or future suggestions where people think we could maybe enhance the programme in any way. We also like to keep track of what the actual benefits are. Over the years, we'd like to keep track of the Give It a Try player conversion. So how many girls from the programme actually go on to become members of the club? What, if any, are the financial benefits to the club in terms of new registrations? Is there a volunteer conversion rate? So quite often we have new players coming into a club and maybe there's a mum or a dad or another relative who comes down with them and they put up their hand to then actively participate in the club going forward as a volunteer. And we see it as a way of, I suppose, a little bit of quality assurance for us as well in terms of the relevance of the programme and an area or a way in which to explore further opportunities within the club's delivery programme. So that's just a very brief overview for some of you who perhaps haven't run the programme previously of what Give It a Try looks like. As I mentioned at the start, it is very different from what we normally look to run. But for this year coming, we're looking to adapt with the current environment that we find ourselves in helping to support clubs to get girls back into the club and back training and, maybe coming into the club for the first time and trying rugby in a nice, safe environment where they can have fun and enjoy it. So as I mentioned, we've run these programs for a number of years. as I said, since 2017. And I suppose I'd like to bring Wendy Hickey from Connacht Rugby in now, if I possibly could. Wendy is the Women's Development Officer in Connacht, and I suppose has been involved with the Give It a Try programme as well with our clubs over the last number of years. So I'm going to invite Wendy on to just give her an oversight of, I suppose, her experience of it. So Wendy, how have the clubs in Connacht benefited from the Give It a Try programme in your opinion?
Well, they benefited. The numbers are there, like we can see it from the number of teams before the Give It a Try programme was there to where it is now. And I went looking at some of the figures there. In 2016, 2017, we had 12 teams at under 15s and under 18s with 239 girls playing at least one game. And that's jumped to the season just gone to 37 teams with 715 girls playing, So I think the Give It a Try is a fantastic recruitment tool. I think in combination with the other things that the IRFU are doing and the provinces are doing to get the girls up and running, I just think that the numbers are there, and the girls are really keen to give rugby a try. And again, it's run over the summer. The weather, well, not looking outside my house today, but the weather usually is a bit kinder, and it's 1 hour a week and the evenings are bright, and it is a fantastic program. It's served us very, very well.
Brilliant. Do you think it's encouraged clubs to take a look at their sustainability and maybe identify where they may be looking kind of a little bit short, and kind of have they been able to use the program to help shore any of those maybe blind spots that they're coming across?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like some of the clubs that say would have started at mini or at youth level, and that kind of started the conveyor belt of, getting girls through the age grade, through the under 14s, 16s, 18s. And then all of a sudden they need to start looking at the younger group, and how are we going to get those numbers back in to kind of keep bringing those players through the youth section. And that's like, some clubs are different. Some need to strengthen their minis. Some have a gap, maybe at under 14s that they need to look at. And I think it's a program that really suits that purpose. And like I said, the clubs have benefited. All the clubs that I've spoken to, everything has been so positive about the program. And we had 5 clubs in 2018 that kind of kickstarted it, and we're up to 16 clubs now. So the clubs talk to each other, and they ask, like, how did you get, under 14, 16s, 18s, how did you get your minis up and running? And I think the Give It a Try is definitely one of those recruitment tools that's helped. And that's why we have the clubs that came on board this year,
Brilliant. You've spoken a lot about how, and I suppose I've asked you a lot about how clubs have benefited, but I suppose from your perspective within Connacht Rugby, how do you think Connacht Rugby have benefited from having the Give It a Try programme available to the clubs in Connacht?
Yeah, I think it's really opening the doors for clubs to be seen as a club for all. That it's not unusual now to walk up to a club and seeing the girls training and the boys training. It's now more the question to the clubs that don't have girls rugby, why don't you have it? As before, it was kind of the other way around. You were kind of surprised or delighted that clubs actually embraced girls rugby, but now it's kind of gone the other way. So I think it's changing that picture that's actually happening within the province. And I suppose when you start out, you think, when I started in 2004, the road was very, very long, and you never think that you'd get to that point, but we're kind of coming around the corner. And those days of, just rocking up and just seeing the boys playing in a club, they're going, which is kind of the right way to go. And we're delighted that that the change is happening. And again, it's all part of the exposure, of the girls rugby as a whole. And I think because it's a national program, it's a bit different than clubs just having their regular open days. It's Give It a Try program has been a huge push, and the promotion of it has been fantastic. And it's like it's a unified attempt, within the whole country to really push the girls rugby, and grow it. So, like I said, it's been fantastic, and I hope it continues a long time.
Brilliant. Well, look, Wendy, thanks a million for taking time out of your busy day to give us a little bit of an overview of what it's meant for Connacht Rugby. So I'd just like to maybe pop over to Shauna from Coolmine, and Coolmine have started to run the Give It a Try programme, and Shauna's kindly agreed to, I suppose, go through a few elements of the programme with us and give Coolmine's perspective on it. So Shauna, thanks a million for giving your time as well, and more than Wendy, to come on and chat to us today, and we really appreciate it. So I suppose the first question for you would be, what made Coolmine decide to run the Give It a Try programme to begin with?
Yeah, I guess for us, can you hear me actually, first of all?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Perfect. Yeah, so I guess for us, I joined the club, say, about 2 years ago, so it was probably September 2 years ago, and it was a case of a handful of us coaches, rocking up on a Saturday, and, we'd have 3 or 4 girls that would be there, and then over maybe the course from September to Christmas, we probably grew that number to about 10. So then just from attending the coach-to-coach sessions, I was talking to Larissa Muldoon, and she had mentioned about the Give It a Try programme, and I guess the one big thing for us was to get our numbers up. So we really wanted to promote the club as well. So, we are a very established club, and Coolmine is very established, but I guess back then when you thought of Coolmine, you would have thought about the boys and the male teams. You would never have kind of associated with a female team. So that was kind of another driver for us, was to use the Give It a Try platform, so the IRFU platform, to put the girls team on, like, out into the community, and to let our community know that we now have a girls team. And then obviously the benefit of that would be to drive our numbers up as well.
Brilliant. What steps did you take, I suppose, in terms of setting up the Give It a Try programme within the club? So did you have to engage with an executive within the club, or how did you garner support, or was it already there from the club?
Yeah, so as I said, I was chatting about it from the coach-to-coach sessions, and I brought it back to our club. And again, we are really lucky with the club that we are associated with, because they're so supportive of the female rugby. So the minute we talked about the Give It a Try programme, it was full hands on deck. They were very supportive, and they gave us the go-ahead and the green light straight away. So that was probably the first thing to do, is to make sure, one, we had the resources to do it, and then 2, we had the support of it. So, and then I guess the steps then that follow that was probably to find the day that suited. So I guess with coming from Dublin, every kid has probably about 10 to 12 different activities. So you have to try to fight your way in, or buy your way into that. So originally we had set it up for 12 or 1 o'clock on a Saturday. And as you can imagine, Saturdays are mental. So I guess that was the next thing, was to kind of set out the feelers of when actually days suit. So we ended up settling on a Monday at 7 o'clock in the evening. So I guess that was a big thing for us, was really to find out how, like, when it suited parents. And then also just to get a team of coaches together. So, originally, like I said, we only had 3 or 4 girls, so we didn't have as many coaches, and we had to prepare for large numbers to come in if we were lucky with the Give It a Try programme. So again, we were really, really lucky in the sense that the coaches that we have now are really passionate about rugby, but also really passionate about women's rugby. So, to kind of get that support network within the club was probably the first step.
Brilliant. I suppose when you got up and running, and you the full backing of the club, and you'd gotten your day and your time, was there any challenges you met along the way, we'll say, that you found it a bit difficult, and maybe how did you overcome any of those challenges? Was there anything pop up and kind of surprise you, maybe, that you hadn't thought about?
Yeah, I guess a couple of things was the advertising side of it. It was trying to reach the community. So that was probably our biggest challenge, in terms of how do we actually advertise ourselves out there. So, you obviously have the platforms, social media, so Facebook's, Instagram, and all of that. So we actually approached Facebook, and they ended up giving us sponsorship. So that allowed us to actually reach further into our community, and now actually zone in on different groups. So instead of just putting out like a post and hoping that everybody sees it, we could now focus it in on, parents, or female parents, in that kind of sense, to kind of get our numbers up. And I guess one thing that we kind of underestimated was the numbers. So I guess that was a challenge in itself. So on our first day, as I said, we had 12 or 13 kids in the club, and then on the first night to Give It a Try, we ended up having 56 kids. So as you can imagine, it was a bit of a shock to the system.
It's a good headache, though.
Yes, exactly. So it was a great challenge, and we did overcome it for week 2. It was a bit hectic on week 1, but week 2 we had it. So it was fine. It was just, a case of just the logistics of filling out forms and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Preparation definitely
key. Clarity is king, as the saying goes. I suppose, what would you consider the benefits to the club to be, I suppose, as you've ran through the programme and are looking to run it out again this year?
So I guess the huge benefit for us is that, was probably having the communication with other Leinster teams. So up until that point, we didn't have a big enough age group to join any of the kind of the clubs. So as in join any of the blitzes throughout the year. So, because we only had one kid at under 8s and one kid at under 10s. So it was a case of kind of the kids would just be thrown in with other teams and they didn't know who it was. But I guess through the Give It a Try program, we were able to build those relationships. And what we ended up doing was actually getting an under 14s team into the Leinster squad the next year coming, because we were able to build that relationship with like Sea Point and De La Salle. So something that we wouldn't have been able to do only for that we were able to make those communications through the Give It a Try program. And then I guess obviously numbers. So, we now have like 90% of those kids who turned up for the Give It a Try program actually converted into the September. So we still have on average, about 50 girls in the club now, which was something that we never thought we'd have.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It seems like it's gone really well for you, and you've been able to capitalize on, as you said, the kids that came through the gate. What advice would you give to any clubs thinking about starting up a Give It a Try program?
I guess one thing that we learned, and it was probably about week 2, something that we learned was, so a big thing we were trying to do, as I said, was advertise. So we were trying to do the external advertising, but it's actually to use the resources in your club. So I'm sure everybody knows, and they're probably all involved in about 10 or 15 WhatsApp groups. And you're, especially with around sports, it was to use that. So we had sent out a message to every like youth team and every minis team within the actual club to go, can you just please forward on this message? Because like most times the boys that are joined probably have a little sister. Or they have a cousin or whatever, and I was trying to make those connections. So I definitely think tap into those resources, because I definitely think our numbers even grew further after those messages went out. And I guess be organized. That was fun for us. It was, so we did like the posters and the flyers and all of that, but we didn't give it enough lead time. So we actually ended up not getting the posters and the flyers until about week 2. So it was all about, if we only had a couple of more weeks, what we should have. Yeah, so definitely lessons learned for us for this year.
Brilliant. Well, Shauna, thanks a million. I really appreciate you taking the time, as I said, for coming on and sharing those experiences from Coolmine. As I said, last year was your first year, and we're delighted that you guys are back on board again for this year. So thanks a million.
Thanks so much.
No problem. I'm going to hand back over to Ross just to see if we've any questions or things like that.
Sure thing, and thanks to all so far. Some questions are coming in. There's still time to get them into that chat function. Tom McCauley from Boyne has put a message in, Amanda, and Shauna there has mentioned around Facebook sponsorship. And I mean, from as little as €10, you can really make some targeted impacts on social media. But Tom's question is around kind of publicizing and promoting the Give It a Try program in general, and the best way to do that. And if you'll permit me, there's probably 2 ways to look at this, one of which is the examples of best practice that you'd be aware of, but I think there's probably a COVID-19 framework to all of this, which I'd be happy to address as well.
Yeah, look, I suppose we've always encouraged as many avenues as possible, and I suppose with the target group you're looking at, social media is a key one, be it whatever platform the club is going across, but I definitely don't see it as the only one. For those who maybe have been on our workshops in previous years, we've certainly considered a little note in the local parish newsletter, or if there's a local brownies or girl guides or any of those type of things, to get in contact with them, as well as perhaps local newspapers and getting the word out there. A lot of the local newspapers are really great at promoting the local clubs, be they whatever sporting background they're coming from. So definitely engaging with those are really useful ways of getting the message out there. Traditionally we would have also, and with the time of year that we ran Give It a Try, we would have also suggested like linking in with schools. Obviously that's not, because of us having to move the program with the current situation, that's not as a viable option at present in terms of publicising it. But there's certainly other ways of getting the message out there, be it social media and those other avenues within our communities.
Yeah, I think for sure. Never underestimate the power of a parish newsletter has been an important lesson for me over the last couple of years working in Irish Rugby. But it is important to bear in mind that as we publicise and promote any event in our clubs, we're doing so amid the COVID-19 scenario. But that's very much supportive what we're doing around hashtag Return to Rugby, which is first and foremost the IRFU guidelines for a return to rugby in clubs. But it's also, a communications piece where we're saying to all of our communities, we are reopening, and we are reopening in a safe and responsible way. So I would be encouraging everyone who's across Give It a Try programs to link in with their COVID-19 club safety officer around the plans that are in place and how best they can be communicated. And it may be linking in with with other volunteers within the club that are across social platforms, and really combining to use the best of the information that's out there. What we want clubs to be doing is to be showing that those plans are in place, and to be showing that the hand sanitizer is going up on the wall, and that directions of travel around clubs are being put in as per their COVID-19 health and safety plan, and on the back of their risk assessment. And it's okay to be transparent about these things and to show that that good work is being done. And that really is about providing the peace of mind that will accompany any communication that will allow parents and ultimately children to return to rugby through the Give It a Try initiative. There's another question that's come in, Amanda. It's from Killian Coyle. It's an interesting one. Killian is making the point that historically a lot of clubs and clubhouses and club infrastructure has been set up to cater for boys. How or what examples are there where Give It a Try has actually been used as a catalyst to bring about infrastructural change in a club so that it would be more accommodating to both boys and girls?
Yeah, I suppose down through the years, and I'm going back to my days on the ground as well as a development officer, at times we would see clubs who, off the back of deciding to introduce a female element to their club, be it adult or at age grade level or minis, did undertake changes to their infrastructure within the clubs of, providing separate dressing rooms. That may not be a possibility for all clubs, but I don't think it's something that's insurmountable. And I suppose some of the stuff I've seen down through the years is obviously just engaging with the clubs and working out nights of training and times of training. I remember one of my clubs when I was working on the ground in Munster, their under-18s team and their adult men's team. So the under-18 girls, adult men's team used to train on the same night, and the times were staggered so that the girls were in and out on the pitch already before the male players arrived, and then the male players were out on the pitch when the girls finished, and they were able to get in and get changed and get out. So there was no crossover in terms of, the dressing room. So there are aspects like that will need a little bit of work, and again, it's engaging the whole club and ensuring people are aware of what's going on and how best they can all work together so that everybody has appropriate space and time for training, and that includes the facilities.
We've time for one more question. Rob Geary in Old Crescent is correctly pointing out that it's fair to say that COVID-19 is probably another hurdle along the way in the last mile to the club in terms of recruiting people for programs like Give It a Try. And in that scenario where there's smaller numbers, how does the program cater for the different ages that might be involved within any one program within a club? So how does it address that kind of age difference that's there?
Yeah, so I suppose we give tips in the resources handbook of how groups can be broken down by their ages. So obviously we've expanded it from 8 to 14-year-olds, and we would hope that clubs will be in a position to break it down into under 10s, 12s and 14s. So there is, as I said, all the program for the 4 weeks that we're going to outline, or that we are outlining, is all non-contact. So there may be opportunities there, in a static drill where people can pass the ball amongst themselves. So there might be little adaptations there that may need to be made depending on the playing numbers, but all that's covered off in the resources booklet as well.
Great. And in terms of signposting as well, this isn't the only webinar or workshop opportunity coming up in relation to Give It a Try.
Correct. So any of the clubs who have currently signed up to the programme, over the next couple of weeks, we're running workshops just to go into a tiny little bit more detail and signpost to, more information around, the different resources that we'll be providing, and they're going to roll out over the next couple of weeks, and again take a similar format to what we're at currently.